Okay, first of all,
Yeah.
how are you?
Very well, glad to be here.
First question is an easy one. Do you recall the first record that you bought?
Excuse me?
Do you recall the first record that you bought?
Yeah, the first tape I ever bought myself was Van Halen, Women and Children First. But a record that really changed my life a few years later was a Black Flag six-pack single. And that really, when I was 12. I was in third grade when I got Van Halen, and I was 12 when I got Black Flag.
So why did it change your life? What did it do to you?
Huh?
Why did it change your life? What did it do to you?
Well, it just, it was the first time that I found Black Flag, and it was, it sounded modern. It felt like it was mine, you know? We came from a musical family, and Black Flag like alienated my dad. He didn't understand it. I thought that was cool. It felt like music from my planet.
Well, yeah, you mentioned your musical family. So was it always encouraged, or did you always know that music was the direction for you?
Yeah, I always, really my main advantage in my musical career has been knowing that I wanted to be a guitar player my whole life, because I wasn't really naturally talented at it. I had to work and work and work, but I knew I wanted to do that. So I just kept working and working, like creativity and writing songs or putting albums together or painting pictures or whatever. That was easier for me, but I wanted to be a guitar player.
So why a guitar player? Was it the Van Halen, that kind of stuff?
It was just a thing. No, I think it was my dad and his friends growing up, and also, you know, Jimi Hendrix and the Allman Brothers and Ry Cooder. So many great guitar players.
Right. So you mentioned the songwriting. What age was this when you first started writing songs?
I was more like 13, 14, 15. I just started writing tunes, and I really had a knack for that. And then our father, his name was Jim Dickinson, he was producing the Replacements at the time. I was 13 or 14, and that was a really huge turn on. I studied the Replacements songs at that age a lot, and learned a lot from Paul Westerberg back in those days.
Well, what would the songs be about at that age?
Oh man, girls, girls, lack thereof, you know.
But if you think back of it, can you see the beginnings of it? The beginnings of
Ever since I was a little kid, I was just loved tape machines and guitars, and that's it, man. It's just like, that's always been it for me. That's my focus.
What was it like then going on stage for the first time?
Oh man, the first time we left the States, and our first record came out in 2000, and we toured all over, and it changed our life. And we came to Pink Pop then, you know. And yeah, it was amazing because we saw so many bands that we'd never seen before, you know, like Oasis, Rage Against the Machine, Primal Scream, a lot of great rock and roll, The Strokes. It was a really good time for music, you know, and it gave us, we learned a lot playing at European festivals then that has really just now started to come out. Because we're trying to, you know, we play like blues, rock and roll, but right, we're trying to make it as modern as possible and trying to disguise the old tradition within a modern context, which really just comes down to the beat, you know? So.
Well, yeah, you mentioned all these influences outside of blues and traditional rock. So was it important not to become, you know, one of those novelty bands that just played traditional things?
You know, I don't like that kind of, you know, bands. I respect them, but like we'll listen to an old song or do an old song, but it just turns into rock and roll by the time we're done with it. And I like the feeling of the evolution of like taking blues or country or mixing it up or hip hop or punk rock or whatever and making something new, you know.
Have there been, especially, well, let's take the previous album. Has there been something that influenced you that surprised you?
So what? Has there been an influence that surprised me?
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of a surprising influence, but what I have really enjoyed is watching, because I'm 40, one. And watching the artists of my generation who had the same influences, watching what everybody does, like people who grew up with, rock and roll, hip hop, punk rock, blues, folk, and watch everybody do their own thing with it, like Beck or G-Love or John Spencer or Jack White. It's like all the similar people with similar styles, but they're all so different, and that's a great hobby of mine. I really enjoy that, watching how everyone has their own take on the modern day roots music.
Is it difficult then not to emulate some of those that you like?
No, because what we do is so just from the gut that there's nothing like thought out about it, like, oh, I'm gonna try and do this, I don't put that kind of energy in that direction, you know what I mean?
So when it came to the records, especially early on, did you give them to your father to listen to, and he would give you advice? And that
do what? Our dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we used to make records with our dad. We would produce ourselves, and he would produce us, and we took turns for a while. And we fought a lot, it was hard. And we're still sorting out ways of recording that he taught us versus finding our own ways. And when it comes down to it, it's like, you have to find your own way and how can I say it? What makes right? It's like sometimes making a record or a piece of art is a battle, and you have to fight for it, and you have to do whatever it takes to get it out in its purest, most raw emotional form,
When do you know that you've captured it, that form?
That's a hard question. It's like, you ask a painter, how do you know when the painting's done, or like, how do you know when the record's over? You can just tell. What I like to do, a great advice that Buddy Miller, a great producer, guitar player, gave me was like, just try not to overdub, It's like, if you need a banjo player and a background vocalist, then call them up, get them there, and do it all together. I like to record, a live, honest recording of the people in the room. And that's my approach. My brother's real different. He'll work on it and layer it and take the layers off. So we complement each other well in that way. But that's how I know I'm done, once we get a good take, maybe do some background vocals.
But in this sense, you have a quite well-known father in the music business. You're playing with your brother. I can see on the one hand a lot of advantages of working with family, but also a lot of disadvantages.
Well, it's hard, but it's hard working with anybody. But it's the difficulties are much more paid off by the how solid it is. It's like between the two of us, we've toured just as a duo. We toured the world with Robert Plant 2 years ago just as a duo, and so it's really great playing with your family, because no matter what, you can keep the band together, And I love it. I couldn't imagine doing it any other way, really.
And in the creative process, does it allow you then to be more honest?
Yeah, the creative process is funny. It's like, because he writes songs and I write songs, but with our band together, we try and focus on the music that happens naturally while we're together. Because in the past, we used to bring songs to each other and try and work out a compromise, but that's too, it feels forced, It's better when we just concentrate on the music that happens naturally while we're together. We're really collaborative.
When did this realization
We're
come?
still, just recently, like over the last couple of years, we're still learning. We really feel like, we're just reaching the height of our powers, like really learning how to focus and harness what we do and our creativity. Because when we were younger, we were reckless stylistically. We would put any type of song or any idea or experiment on our records, because that was we only had the one outlet. It's before we learned of side projects and solo records, which are really valuable because they allow you to get those ideas out, which makes them stronger, and it makes your main thing stronger, because nothing is compromised. So that was a huge lesson for us.
So you mentioned the side projects, you both do side projects. So did that make it easier to discern when a song was useful for North Mississippi Allstars or for a side?
Yeah, exactly.